And good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is July the 28th, 209th day of the year. Just 156 days remain to the year's over with. Holidays and observances, because there's always plenty of those. National Soccer Day, National World Conservation Day, World Hepatitis Day, National Milk Chocolate Day, as I said, World Conservation Day, National Water Park Day, Buffalo Soldiers Day. Now that's an interesting holiday and observance. Buffalo Soldiers Day celebrates the courage of these men. Despite facing prejudice, they stood strong, proving their skill and dedication. Their story is one of perseverance, bravery, unbreakable will. To serve a country didn't always treat them fairly. Honoring this day recognizes the sacrifices they made. King Rama X's Day, or birthday rather. It's a significant day in Thailand. Grand ceremonies and nation-wide celebrations honor the current monarch, highlighting the deep respect and affection the Thai people hold for their king. Citizens and government officials alike engage in various activities to express their loyalty and appreciation. It's a time when a nation comes together, adorning in yellow attire, symbolizing Monday, the day of the king's birth. Alrighty. National Fishing Month, Phi Tai Con, goes on through the 30th, also known as the Ghost Festival. It's a vibrant and unique celebration held in a small town of Da Sai in Thailand's Lao province. This festival is a lively spectacle where locals and visitors alike put on elaborate masks and costumes that transform into playful ghosts. The city comes alive with parades, music, and dancing, fills the air with energy and excitement. It's all in all a joyful event that merges spirituality and fun, draws people together in celebration of local tradition and the community's deep-rooted cultural heritage. It's part of a larger event known as Boon Long, which honors both Buddhist and animist traditions. This festival is believed to invite spirits to join the living for a few days of merrymaking. Okay, let's see what else we got. National Marine Week, Festival of British Archaeology, Love Parks Week, Big Butterfly Count. That's monitoring environmental vitality, tallying the number of butterflies. Famous people born in the state, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis and Lori Loughlin. Alrighty. Let's see what's in the news. Well, President Trump is in Scotland meeting with the Prime Minister of England, Starmer, after an EU trade victory as the UK secures a special deal. In Arkansas, a husband and wife went out for a hike with their two young children, and they were both killed in Devil's Den State Park. Suspect still at large. They just moved to Arkansas from another state, according to police. There's a manhunt underway right now to try to find out who did the murder. Devil's Den State Park's located near the northwestern corner of the state, about 2:40 on Saturday, Clinton Brink, 43, and Kristen Brink, 41, were found dead on a walking trail, according to a press release. Their two young daughters, ages 9 and 7, were uninjured, and family members have come to get them. They just moved to the area, according to the press release. They moved to Prairie Grove, Arkansas, from another state. Now, having spent time in Arkansas, I can tell you the pace in Arkansas is a lot slower than elsewhere. But there are odd people every place. All right. Well, Lindsey Graham got into it with NBC anchor over Tulsi Gabbard's new Russiagate allegations. He's calling for a special counsel to be appointed to investigate into Gabbard's claims. It was on NBC's Meet the Press. Host Kristen Welker asked Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, if he's trying to distract from the Epstein matter during a heated exchange on Sunday. This is that heated exchange with regard to the Trump administration's allegations that former President Obama directed U.S. intelligence agencies to implicate Trump in the Russiagate scandal. Now, we do know it was originally paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign, but the Obama administration picked it up and ran with it. The argument between the host and Graham erupted over recent allegations lodged by the Tulsi Gabbard. Declassified intelligence documents and declassified 2020 House Intelligence Committee report revealed that in the final days of the Obama administration, President Obama ordered the U.S. intelligence agencies to alter their assessment of Russia's attempts to interfere with the election, specifically to help Donald Trump. In actuality, Putin was pretty sure Hillary Clinton was going to win, and he was concerned about her. Well, Senator Rand Paul says there are 186 billion reasons why we have to audit the Fed. The Federal Reserve pays hundreds of billions of dollars to banks who are operating at a loss and actually increasing the national debt. It's a major agency with the ability to manipulate and control the entire American economy. Our jobs, our finances, our savings, and ultimately our livelihoods, all are subject to decisions made by the Fed. But their deliberations and operations are behind closed doors. It's all a deep, dark secret. Well, illegal immigrants storm U.S. beaches as Coast Guard battles migrant surge that arose under Biden. I mean, it looks like the Normandy invasion some days. Experts highlight different threats from professional smugglers versus overcrowded, leaky boats reaching U.S. shores. It's believed that the rise in illegal immigration took place by boats under the Biden administration has created unique dangers for law enforcement. Maritime illegal migration using boats to enter the U.S. illegally rose during the Biden administration as a result of the political and economic crisis in Haiti and Cuba, according to the Migration Policy Institute. The February 2023 U.S. Naval Institute said illegal immigrant interdiction operations were in a state of emergency due to societal turmoil in some of the Caribbean countries. Well, every year, seniors who are in the Reserve Officer Training Corps, also known as ROTC, go to various military posts for training. I went to Fort Bragg, but they also have a training facility at Fort Knox. And Cadet Neil Idara, a Rutgers University ROTC cadet, died at Fort Knox. He was from Ridgewood, New Jersey, passed away during training at the land navigation site at Fort Knox on July 24th. That's according to U.S. Army Cadet Command. Joined ROTC at Rutgers in September 2021. She's attending Cadet Summer Training Camp as part of the 9th Regiment Advanced Camp. became unresponsive while conducting land navigation training, and let me tell you, running through the woods at Bragg or at Fort Knox during the height of the summer makes you feel like you're in a steam bath. Well, Judge Judy recreates controversial American verdicts and challenges viewers in a show called Justice on Trial. It's a new Prime Video series, allows viewers to decide if justice was served in 8 of the most impactful court cases in American history. Judge Judy's actually Judge Judith Sheindlin. She's been on TV as long as I can remember. The show was over 10 years in the making, finally premiered last Monday on Prime Video. Revisits 8 of the most monumental court cases in American memory. Allows the viewer to decide if justice was served with each verdict. Main lawyers featured on the show are Larry Bachman and Daniel Mintzer. Episode 7 featured a retelling of Snyder versus Phelps, in which a grieving father, Albert Snyder, sued Fred Phelps and his followers at the Rustboro Baptist Church for emotional distress after church members protested his son Matthew's military funeral. Churchgoers, as depicted in the episode, carried signs reading, "God hates your son, thank God for dead soldiers, and thank God for 9/11, which was a move to protest the military's intolerance tolerance of homosexuality. Snyder noted during the trial his son wasn't gay. Protesters were protesting the military at large. The show highlighted the legal boundaries of protected speech when it conflicts with potential harm to others. Well, Hulk Hogan's death has caused a number of different responses. Florida County School Board Chair deleted her comment celebrating Hogan's death as one last MAGA. MAGA, of course, is Make America Great Again. Alachua County official Sarah Rockwell apologized for her flippant comments about the WWE icon's death. She celebrated legendary wrestler Hulk Hogan's death on Thursday as one last MAGA, as I said. Then she said, oh, did Hulk die? I didn't even know. Good, one less MAGA in the world. She's since deleted those comments. In a follow-up, she said he worked with the McMahons to union bust professional wrestling. Never been a good guy. Feel absolutely nothing about his death. After her comments went viral on social media, she deleted and apologized for them on her official school board Facebook account. Well, if you don't know what you're talking about, I suggest keeping your mouth shut. Well, Princess Anne wants Prince William to ditch one concerning royal habit. He's got a work-shy reputation. Several royal experts claimed to Fox News that the late Queen's only daughter's been crowned the hardest working royal, is hopeful her nephew's going to pick up the slack as he prepares to be king one day. Prince William in the past had allegations he was work shy, according to one royal expert. Perfect prince image may be slightly tarnished, and Princess Anne takes no prisoners. In other words, she's got a big mouth, so she's not afraid to use it. Well, the world's most premature baby has defied all medical odds. Reached the first birthday. Doctors initially gave the baby, named is Nash Keene, 0 chance of survival when he was born 133 days early. But his parents, Molly and Randall Keene from Iowa, recently celebrated a major milestone. Guinness Book World Records has officially recognized Nash as the world's most premature baby to survive. Earlier this year, Nash, who's got the nickname Nash Potato, turned 1 year old. Born at the University of Iowa Healthcare Steed Family Children's Hospital, weighed 10 ounces at birth, less than a grapefruit, measured 24 centimeters long, but he's made it to 1 year. Well, Arizona prosecutors have declined to charge the father in the drowning death of TikTok influencer's 3-year-old son. Maricopa County prosecutors cite no likelihood of conviction despite police recommendation for child abuse charges. The husband of a TikTok influencer in Arizona was involved in the drowning death of their 3-year-old son. Emily Kaiser was out with friends while her husband Brady stayed at home with their newborn, Theodore, and Trigg, who was 3, who is the one who drowned. Trigg was found unresponsive in the couple's backyard pool in Chandler, Arizona, according to fire department officials. Chandler Police Department arrived on the scene first and found an unconscious 3-year-old boy had been pulled out of the backyard pool. Officers began CPR and firefighters took over patient care when they arrived. Brady told police at the time he turned around for 3 to 5 minutes and found his son floating in the pool. Child died 6 days later. July 15th, the Chandler Police Department formally recommended to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office that Brady should be charged with a Class 4 felony child abuse. But the district attorney is not going to be doing that. Well, the 60 Minutes staff said they're ready to move forward from the Paramount Trump settlement, but there are concerns. Questions remain as CBS News will have new ownership following the Skydance merger. One of the most storied institutions in all of American journalism was at the most turbulent period in its 57-year history. 60 Minutes is one of the few brands in legacy media that has proved its staying power. The Sunday magazine show continues to be one of the biggest draws for viewers on broadcast TV, which is why President Trump's $20 billion lawsuit against CBS News and its parent company Paramount Global had such high stakes. Well, they're settling with him. He claimed that they edited the Kamala Harris interview to make her look better. Well, Senator Adam Schiff may go to jail over alleged mortgage fraud. He's accused of claiming 2 different primary residences in order to gain financial advantage. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte sent a criminal referral to Attorney General Pam Bondi in May, alleging the California Democrat Adam Schiff has in multiple instances falsified bank documents, property records to acquire more favorable loan terms, impacting payments from 2003 to 2019 for a Pontiac, Maryland-based property. Now, he's a California senator, but at any given time, he's claimed the Maryland-based property is his primary home. And now he says, well, he used both the condo in California and the house in Maryland all the time. Neither one was a vacation home. So apparently he's able to be 2 places at the same time. Well, Democratic strategists are blasting Hunter Biden over his disaster interview. They claim there's no better way for the Democrats to lose than Hunter Biden to go ranting and raving. Well, former CBS anchor warning Paramount merger marks the end of the network and honest journalism, though there hadn't been honest journalism in the mainstream media in quite some time. Several journalists have accused Paramount of caving to President Trump ahead of the merger. Former CBS anchor Connie Chung warned on CNN Friday that the recent merger between Paramount Global and Skydance Media could be the end of journalism as she once knew it. Well, if I have to tell the truth, yes, it is the end of journalism as they knew it. Well, there is a heat dome. It's bringing life-threatening temperatures to millions across the southeast and down into Florida. On Sunday, Tampa, Florida went to 100 degrees by 3:30 p.m. That broke the Florida city's all-time record high temperature since record keeping began back in 1890. Now, Hulk Hogan and Ozzy Osbourne's deaths led Michael Jordan's son to reconnect with family members. There's a documentary about Hulk Hogan's life and times. He did over 20 hours of interviews for that. He shared personal stories. Sports world now mourns his death. Now, Trump's landmark deal in the Middle East is the real key to peace, according to a lot of folks. Regional cooperation continues to expand with Israel's Arab partners. Now, according to experts, the idea of Middle East peace shouldn't be reached without a formal agreement between Israel and the Palestinian authorities. Outdated and demonstrably untrue. It's done little but exacerbate the conflict over the last 30 years and undermine U.S. interest in the region. The Abraham Accords, brokered by President Trump in 2020, offers a far more reliable solution to provide a new paradigm for peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including the Palestinians. I will note that the French have stepped up and said there needs to be a Palestinian state. And in fact, there's discussions about creating that in South France. When New Orleans jail is mistakenly releases a violent offender due to human error, there's an investigation currently underway. Sheriff takes responsibility as the manhunt begins for a violent offender mistakenly released from the New Orleans Parish Prison. He was supposedly mistakenly released due to a clerical error, named Khalil Bryan, discharged Friday despite facing multiple charges. In a statement released by the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Susan Hudson acknowledged the mistake and accepted responsibility. He's facing violent and nonviolent charges both, and we're coordinating closely with law enforcement agencies to ensure his swift return to custody. And most importantly, the victims in these matters have been notified. According to information from the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office and Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, he was in custody for illegal possession of stolen property, possession of drug paraphernalia, and resisting an officer. Also had an active warrant from Criminal District Court, Section H, for aggravated assault with a firearm, domestic abuse, child endangerment, and home invasion. Also warranted in nearby Jefferson Parish and was being held on a $100,000 bench warrant for failure to appear, along with a separate $25,000 bond tied to a recent felony charge. He'd been a busy boy. Dennis Quaid says every day is paradise with a wife who's 39 years his junior. He's 71 years old, and his wife is 32. He says he's living a dream. He married her 5 years ago, and says he's still in the honeymoon stage. Jennifer Lopez suffered a major wardrobe malfunction during a concert. She admitted she didn't wear underwear after her gold sequin skirt fell to the ground in Warsaw. She accidentally left her skirt on the floor Friday during a concert in Warsaw, Poland. It was her 56th birthday. She was in the midst of receiving birthday wishes during a live stream concert when her gold sequin skirt just fell to the ground. She was wearing glittered in gold, wearing a metallic bra with a matching fringe skirt below for the show. Walked across the stage. Concert goers got a glimpse of her matching underwear when her skirt hit the stage. Backup dancer rushed to her side, attempted to cover her up, only for her to throw the broken garment to the ground. She said, "I'm glad I had underwear on. I don't usually wear it." That's too much information, I suspect. Well, the Terran archaeologists have unveiled a rare 2,600-year-old tomb untouched by looters. They call it a doorway to our ancestors. An unusual burial chamber contained variable artifacts arranged according to ancient ritual. Discovery was announced by the Italian Ministry of Culture on June 30th. Organization said the burial mound dated back to the late 7th century BC during the Orientalizing period of Italian history. The tomb is part of the Giolo necropolis within the San Giuliano archaeology area, about 30 miles north of Rome. This site is famous for housing other ancient burials, including the Queen's Tomb, the Tomb of the Stag, and the Tomb of the Beds. Now, this tomb hasn't been officially named yet, but they're working on it. Well, there's been a question of why some steakhouses are thriving and others can't keep the folks coming back. It's not just about the food. The ambiance, wine pairings, unique dining experiences are all keys to continued success. It may seem like the era of casual dining is over, but there's one restaurant industry that, according to the powers that be, still sizzling, and that's steakhouses. Well, Trump has rejected Macron's move as the U.S. is going to skip the UN summit on the Palestinian state. Experts are saying it's perfectly clear that an armed Palestinian state means more war, not peace. So we're going to boycott the high-level summit on Palestinian statehood, which is co-sponsored by France and Saudi Arabia. It's going to take place at the UN headquarters in New York City on Monday, or today, rather. Ellie Goulding is flaunting her toned physique and multiple bikinis during a sun-soaked Italian holiday. She's apparently a singer, and she's living it up on her European vacation. She's a 38-year-old singer. She's posted a series of photos on Instagram from her Italian vacation, capturing the photos Carbs It. Carousel of photos not only featured the singer sightseeing, but also a few bikini shots. Well, there's video from Cincinnati showing a brutal downtown brawl that left victims bloodied. Cincinnati police are launching an investigation. Police chief condemns the viral video showing a violent attacks as nothing short of cruel and absolutely unacceptable. The man in a white t-shirt is seen to be shoved to the ground by two other men and then beaten. And video then shows other folks in the crowd, to include women, joining in on the beating. Man's head's even stomped on a few times. Well, the man who conducted the Michigan Walmart stabbing spree has been apprehended. He's been identified. Police are seeking terrorism and assault charges for his rampage. They say he's 42-year-old Bradford James Gilly. Faces one count of terrorism and 11 counts of assault with intent to murder. At least 11 people were stabbed on Saturday at the Walmart in Traverse City, Michigan. Alrighty. Let's see if we got anything else. Jimmy Hoffa's son has done an interview about who killed his father and why and what he did to his family. Fox News interview reveals a conspiracy between union leadership and the Detroit mob to prevent Hoffa from coming back to run the union. Well, he walked away from the negotiations with Hamas over the hostage deal. According to the powers that be, Hamas has hardened up on the deal, so Israel's now going to make the decision about what to do next. CIA chief is saying prosecutions are still possible for key figures in the Trump-Russia and Russiagate investigation. All right. Well, we've been talking about all kinds of different stories, and I had a question from a listener. Why don't we see recently claims of interaction with UFOs by pilots? And while we do periodically hear that language used, UFO is a term from the 50s. And but today, it's unidentified aerial phenomena. And that's being used instead of UFOs. And a lot of the UAP, as they're called, encounters are every bit as baffling as the UFO encounters. So why the change in the name? Well, UFO, of course, stands for Unidentified Flying Object. And on paper, that sounds calm and logical. Those that report it basically are saying, we saw something in the sky, we don't know what it is. But that phrase, according to the powers that be, picked up baggage almost from day one. In the early 1960s, UFOs meant little green men, tabloid headlines, late-night talk show callers. Scientists rolled their eyes, and generals ducked reporters. Airline pilots kept quiet rather than risk being mocked as crackpots. UAP, on the other hand, means unidentified aerial phenomena. Now, you may say this is a minor change, but it actually wipes away decades of jokes. Aerial is broader than flying because the things on radar might be a blip, a plasma ball, or a trick of the sensors. Phenomena is softer than object because investigators no longer have to assume what was seen was solid metal. They can leave the verdict open. In other words, UAP is a placeholder. It says something odd happened in the air and let's go figure it out. It doesn't bring up references to aliens or anything else. And you may ask why this change really matters. Well, a Navy flyer who sees a glowing spear zip past the canopy knows he or she has to file a safety report. The old form asked if she wanted to classify it as a UFO. And the problem is, if you said yes, that could stall your career. So a lot of pilots never made any reports. When the Navy rewrote the paperwork in 2019, they replaced UFO with UAP. Hazard reports from carrier squadrons jumped overnight. Same skies, same objects, just a different box to check. And suddenly the brass had data to study. Now, if you went to lawmakers and said you wanted $20 million to chase UFOs, you could watch that budget hearing turn into a comedy sketch. But if you go to those same lawmakers and pitch that same request as investigating unidentified aerial phenomena that threaten their airspace, now you got their attention. This rebrand helped create the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which now enjoys a real line item in the defense bill. Money flows where the language sounds serious. Now, academic journals refuse articles that read like supermarket tabloids. For decades, even solid radar data got tossed because it carried the UFO label. Put in UAP, and lo and behold, The door is open. Harvard's Avi Loeb launched the Galileo project to study UAPs with custom sensor arrays. NASA formed its first UAP study panel in 2023. The topic hasn't really changed, but the reputation of that topic has. Now, federal law now protects anyone who discloses information about UAP crash retrieval programs. Nowhere in that statute does the word UFO appear. This safer term lets insiders testify under oath without being painted as believers in aliens. Former intelligence officer David Grush cited that protection when he told Congress in 2023 that non-human materials are locked away in classified vaults. Whether you agree with him or not, he spoke because the law finally gave him a shield. Now, to see why the new term was needed, we need to go back to 1947. Kenneth Arnold, civilian pilot, spotted 9 shiny objects skipping over Mount Rainier like saucers on water. Well, reporters grabbed the term saucer and turned it into a national craze. 2 weeks later, the Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release claiming it recovered a flying disc. Then later on retracted that story, claimed it was a weather balloon. Damage was done. Saucer talk fuses with conspiracy culture, and the Air Force spends the next 20 years trying to end the circus with Project Blue Book, which in and of itself was pretty much of a joke. Now, Blue Book closed down in 1969, declaring most sightings, misidentifications, and arrests unimportant. And that was the official end of the story. Unofficially, pilots kept seeing strange things, but they learned to stay quiet. Reporting UFO became professional poison. When radar caught zigzagging targets, officers found ways to follow them into weather clutter or equipment error. And the label made the data disappear. And from personal experience, I can tell you that reporting a UFO got me a very uncomfortable interview with my battalion commander. He told me that we actually shot it, 2,500 rounds of ammunition. And he called somebody. Now, our colonel was a big guy, hard charging. He didn't listen, he talked. In that call, he listened. Hung up and told me that was all I could go. And I said, well, how about what I reported? And he said, no, you didn't see anything. I said, we expended 2,500 rounds of ammunition at it. He said, no, you didn't. It was inventory error. And I started to object. And he said, if you want to remain an officer, it was an inventory error. So I got the hint and I left. Now, in 2004, pilots from USS Nimitz chased a white Tic Tac. It dropped from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second. That encounter is recorded on the fighter's infrared camera. Crew tried to file a report, and the form says UFO, and they knew what would happen next. It'd be laughter and lost flight status, maybe even a psych evaluation. So that video sat on hard drives for years. Now, in 2014, a quiet memo at Naval Air Systems Command says future incident logs will use UAP instead of UFO. Now, the wording seems dull, of course, but it flips a mental switch. By 2017, 3 Navy videos leaked to the press, all stamped UAP. And the Pentagon, surprise, surprise, confirmed they're real. Journalists run that story without the fear of a tabloid taint. Within months, Congress demands briefings, and the Director of National Intelligence releases a report admitting 143 cases still unexplained. If we're talking UFOs, none of this will have been admitted. Well, in bureaucracy, words act like codes. Change a key word and the system reroutes itself. Forms get a new checkbox. So more events get put in the record. Budgets appear because the topic looks legitimate. Labs compete for grants instead of laughing behind their hands. Reporters cover hearings instead of relegating them to the oddities page. All because of the Three-letter shift. What was in the sky didn't change, but the way it was described did. Now, we're going to investigate America's secret files on unexplained aerial events in our next few shows. To follow the paper trail, you have to know which label unlocked which door. We want to track pilot testimonies, radar tapes, black budget line items flowing through the new reporting channels, and show how the flow reshapes aviation safety, national security, and even public trust. One acronym, retire the punchline. The other may reveal a hidden piece of our modern skies. Now, a writer got a padded envelope on his doorstep one day. No return address, just a DC postmark, and the handwritten note said, "Start here." Inside were photocopies of two documents. First one was a faded 1969 Project Blue Book dispatch listing 5 radar stations that track an object moving like a ping pong ball. The second, a 2015 Naval Safety Center hazard report describing a Cuban-sided Spear that nearly collided with a squadron of FA-18s off the Virginia coast. Both had the same motions, the same evasive maneuvers. It's 50 years apart. The single thread convinced this writer that modern UAP puzzle can't be solved without activating the older UFO roots. You need to follow the data, not the folklore. So in his search for information, he started in Kansas City, Missouri, home of the National Archives Federal Records Center. That's where Project Blue Book's 22,000 case files live in climate-controlled isolation. He spent weeks leafing through teletype sheets and hand-drawn flight plots and long-ignored engineering memos. There were high-resolution scans of key pages, particularly those labeled unsolved, and certain radar tapes ordered for disposal in 1970 still exist in a private historian's garage. They also cross-reference air weather service logs, pilot training manuals, and contemporary press clippings to see how facts changed or vanished in public retelling. Now, paper evidence is only half the story. When a mystery persists over decades, somebody's funding the chase. And switching to the term UAP unlocked fresh budget lines. Using public appropriations databases and often ignoring justification books the Pentagon sends to Congress, we can follow the streams that flow into the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program and the current All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. And there's also small business innovation research grants, micro contracts of only a few $100,000 that hint at UAP-inspired technology studies, metamaterial waveguides and inertial mass reduction drives and plasma-based cloaking. Some consider pie-in-the-sky proposals, and others the first step toward harnessing whatever's flitting through our airspace. Eyewitnesses can forget or embellish. Instruments don't. We're going to talk about sensitive data behind headline cases, begin with the Navy's FLIR, Grimble, and Go Past videos. We're going to talk about how an FA-18 FLIR pod works, how to raise azimuth and elevation overlays, and while wind data from nearby NOAA buoys can rule out a weather balloon in 5 minutes. Now, data needs context, and context often comes from people who watched events unfold. Testimony without cross-checks is gossip. So we're going to focus on sworn statements, either under penalty of perjury in congressional hearings or in signed affidavits obtained for Inspector General complaints. How about the report from Navy Lieutenant Ryan Graves, who logged UAP encounters almost daily from Commander David Fravor, pursued the Tic Tac. Report from former intelligence officer David Grush, who claims crash retrieval programs exist in secured compartments. When I was doing the research for my book Beyond Roswell, which is available from Amazon, I write under the name of Ken Hudnall. I heard a lot of stories about crash retrieval programs. A few topics inflame social media faster than claims about alien alloys. Laboratory analyses are actually funded by the various programs. There are electron microscope images of layered bismuth magnesium foils, isotopic ratio charts from mass spec tests, and rebuttable memos from Sandia National Laboratories that the samples are industrial slag. And of course, we have to review the chain of custody, who collected the fragments, where they were stored, which labs did blind analysis, and what critics argued about contamination. Now, America is not just an island in this mystery. The Brazilian Air Force files describe radar visual chases during the night of the UFOs in 1986. French Space Agency, CNES, publishes Gaipan dossiers of multi-sensor evidence. The Japanese Ministry of Defense instituted a UAP reporting policy after U.S. pressure in 2020. There are key foreign documents that we need to look at, comparison of statistics and plot clusters on a single timeline. Every chapter we cover pulls one layer of this six-tier stack into focus. We talk initially about the 1947 and 1969 time frame, linking the earliest radar cases to Blue Book's final files. We go to the 21st century, our cockpit videos and modern radar logs. We're linking debates long thought to be closed. There are three questions we need to examine as we go through this. Is there a consistent body of evidence showing objects or phenomenal capabilities beyond known technology? And if that is the case, is that evidence best explained by classified human programs, foreign adversary advances, natural events, or something else entirely? And whatever the answer might be, why has there been a veil of secrecy pulled over it? What will it take to lift it without compromising legitimate national security concerns? Well, to answer those three questions, as simple as they may sound, requires a full spectrum trail from dusty archive boxes to encrypted satellite sensors. You know, if you think about the American airspace as an invisible highway grid, where commercial jets and military fighters and cargo planes weave through that grid every minute of the day. And of course, there are strict rules that separate metal from metal by mere miles and sometimes only seconds. Most of us, of course, even when we're flying on some of those planes, never worry about the choreography because we trust the system. But every time an unidentified aircraft, now called a UAP, slides across the flight path, three pillars wobble at once: aviation safety, national security, and public trust. We're going to talk about that. Under aviation safety, of course, these are collisions waiting to happen. Pilots file near-miss reports the way motorists swapped insurance after a fender bender. Quite often, these reports involve birds or careless drones. Starting in 2014, Navy fighter squadrons based in Virginia and California began logging encounters with silent objects, cubes inside translucent spheres, bright orbs that stop on a dime, cigar-shaped craft that actually move with a purpose against 120-knot winds. None of these carried transponders, none showed conventional exhaust, and some came close to setting off cockpit collision alarms. Well, a modern jetliner weighs more than 175,000 pounds at cruise. 500 miles per hour, striking even a small drone can crack a windshield or shred an engine blade. Now imagine an object the size of a refrigerator closing on a passenger jet at fighter jet speed. The kinetic energy alone would rival a small bomb. risk forces airlines and the military to reroute traffic or increase separation. Every reroute burns extra fuel, and every fuel burn raises ticket prices and maintenance costs. Accident investigators are quick to point to pilot error or mechanical failure, and if a future cockpit voice recorder captures a crew shouting about a glowing spear seconds before impact, of course that narrative is going to change, literally overnight. Rebranded UAP reporting system tries to catch these dangers before they make headlines, but only if pilots trust they won't be mocked for speaking up. And of course, then there's the national security aspect. December 2019, missile field security teams near Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana tracked a red baseball-sized orb hovering over a Minuteman III silo. The orb outran a dispatched helicopter and blinked off radar. Officially, the event remained unresolved. Scattered incidents like that worry planners for a simple reason. Whoever controls American skies actually controls American power. During the Cold War, we feared Soviet bombers. Today, the threat landscape is wider. China and Russia are testing hypersonic glide vehicles that skim the atmosphere at 5 times the speed of sound, making them hard to track and harder to shoot down. And off-the-shelf drones can already carry surveillance gear or explosives into restricted zones. Even a fraction of UFO reports involve advanced foreign technology, and America's billion-dollar radar fences have holes big enough for a missile or something else to slip through. Pentagon created the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office because senior officers readily admitted existing radar nets tuned for predictable threats like ballistic missiles, not objects that can hover one moment and dart the next. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office's job is to find out whether unexplained blips are foreign drones, test vehicles from a classified U.S. program, or something else. And then, of course, there's the issue of public trust. Trust the software running beneath every American institution. When citizens believe air travel is safe, they book flights without a second thought. When they believe the military can defend the homeland, they sleep soundly. When they believe Congress actually does something besides pontificate, they accept classified budgets on faith. Well, in April of 2020, that trust cracked, and the Pentagon released 3 cockpit videos it had hidden for years. Suddenly, the same officials who once dismissed UFO talk were admitting they couldn't explain objects racing past Navy jets. At that point, the public said, well, haven't you told us? Polls by Pew and Gallup now show a solid majority of Americans believe the government hides significant information about UAPs. Some people spin wild conspiracies, others tune out altogether, assuming the truth is forever buried. And like the trust also chills science. Young researchers who might study sensor anomalies or novel propulsion shy away for fair ridicule of funding cuts. But history shows that when government secrets finally open up, such as the radar after World War II or satellite imagery after the Cold War, new industries and scientific fields bloom. Transparency about UAP data could spark breakthroughs in sensor fusion, plasma physics, even material science. But that can't happen while the subject remains hidden. Picture a Venn diagram where each circle, safety, security, and trust overlaps the others. A single UAP incident can light up all 3 zones at once. A near collision over a busy airline corridor threatens passengers. That's safety. Raises questions about our defense gaps. That's security. When officials refuse to release radar footage, citizens suspect a cover-up. If foreign tech is involved, the secrets may be justified, but the public won't know, which starts another round of doubt. And that feedback loop speeds up in the age of social media. A leaked cockpit clip can go viral in minutes, fueling panic before investigators even visit the flight deck. Faster agencies can classify UAP data, share what they safely can, and debunk what they have to. The faster these 3 circles stop spinning out of control. Well, if you ever watched late night cable special on government UFO secrets. You probably saw fuzzy photos, unnamed insiders, and claims that crumple under basic fact checking. We're going to talk about the evidence you can trace and test and download yourself. Plain terms, that's how the investigation is built, and that's how we're going to address it. Now, I know UAPs are real. I shot at one. Luckily, it didn't shoot back. The National Archives in College Park, Maryland holds about 22,000 pages of Blue Book case files. These files have visual confirmation plus radar track, multiple witnesses, or even physical traces on soil or aircraft. Of course, now under FOIA, you can get a lot of information you couldn't get before. Well, when rumor meets money, of course, auditors leave tracks. Pentagon Inspector General Memo, IG 2021-003, and DoD Controller File W91-ZLK-17-F-0156 exposes how anomaly programs shifted contracts among shell vendors. Well, if documents tell you what happened, quite often dollars will tell you why. There's a lot of black budget programs that have millions of dollars at their disposal. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow and talk more about unidentified aerial phenomena. Until then, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show saying have a truly great evening.